Hello, 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 everybody. We are back again, and I'm feeling a shit ton better. Oh my god. Madam Hellfire with actual food is a happy Madam Hellfire. So we're back today. Instead of doing the final video for the Mandela catalog, which I will do at some point in the near future. I'm probably going to do it some sort of stream, not next week, but the following week, during the week at some point to finish that out. So we've got a clean slate after December. December is going to be a lot of people coming on. We've got K-Huck with me to go over another analog horror series on the 2nd of December. And then we have Knox on the 10th to talk about a bunch of other things, a particular case that he is interested in. So we're doing True Crime 2 months in a row. And then we're going to close out the month with Halls of Horror with Strictly Patrick and Christmas movie talk. But speaking of Knox Archive, we have him here with us today. Hello, Knoxy.
Hi, I just have a really quick question.
Uh-huh.
Did I mention last night I hate TikTok?
Many times. Could have been a drinking game.
Cool. I hope nobody died from that drinking game.
I died just a little bit inside, and that's about it.
Well, anyways, hello.
Hello! How are you doing today?
I am awesome because I got pizza.
I can tell you're saying nommies and yummy and all the baby talk in my chat. I feel it. Hey, thank you for the $1 Pidgey. Much appreciated.
Yeah. So how's your cheesecake fund going?
There isn't one right now because I had my cheesecake, so I'm happy.
Okay. We need to start a new cheesecake fund then. We need to give you all the cheesecake.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to that. Also, you can see at the bottom left corner of the screen, we are 70 subs away from the 1,500 sub goal for this year. Like,
So
share, sub if you are not already subbed. I am still putting out a bunch of stuff. I've been posting weekly, which is not like me. And I will continue to post weekly until the Cafe and Diner Archives is done, which won't be anytime soon. I'm still trying to get some stuff done, finish the Cryptid Iceberg next year. It's not going to happen this year. Come on, I have barely any time to do anything else right now. But it will get finished, and then we'll be on to other things. Possibly movie reviews. Possibly more true crime. I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure it out. But today, we are going to talk about one of the most infamous axe murders of all time, the Lizzie Borden case.
Ah, Lizzie Borden.
Everybody's heard of Lizzie Borden in one way or another. It is a fascinating case. And would you like to know why I decided to pick this month?
Because she was featured on a Simpsons episode before?
No.
Okay.
Because during the weeks leading up to October, WWE had superstars Scarlett and Shotzi going to different haunted places and with other superstars and doing ghost hunts. And one of the places they went to was the Lizzie Borden house. And there was some stuff that happened that was very interesting that I'll get into at the end of the stream.
So what you're saying is I'm going to need at least a diaper just in case I crap myself from fright.
Possibly. We're not going to show anything but a couple of images from it because I don't want to get fucked by, WWE. I'm not dumb enough to do that, even though I would love to show you guys clips of that. I'm not about to get screwed. I would like my my stuff to remain active. Hey, thank you for re-upping your membership and remaining a true sleuth for 10 months, Spectre, you fucking legend. Thank you so much. But because they went to the Lizzie Borden house and there was some stuff that happened that was very interesting, although I am skeptical because obviously it's, it's ghost hunting. How you don't know how legit that stuff was. Hey, Pidgey, a 12-month member for an entire year. Bro, thank you. Thank you.
Pidgey Pidgey and Spectre are in a freaking pissing contest right now.
Not really, because they're just re-upping the memberships. They're not in a pissing contest yet. So far, Pigeon's winning because he donated.
Well, I have noticed that behind the scenes they have been kind of in a pissing contest where, Spectre is totally like very racist towards birds, and Pidgey keeps calling him out on it.
He keeps keychaining him.
Yeah.
So it's both. They're both. They go back and forth. It's not a big deal.
And I'm going to have them both on a stream. At one point.
You're gonna have a good time. Have fucking fun with that. I'll be doing other things. I'll probably be relaxing. Yes, you're both clinically insane. That is definitely true.
Okay, name one person that is actually sane.
I couldn't do that. But
I'm pretty sure even Lizzie Borden wasn't really that sane.
Oh no, she's definitely not sane. She's definitely a wacko. But speaking of, why don't we go ahead and get into the facts of this particular case so that I can show you the cool things that really got me interested in what going through this case again. Hey, welcome Jacob. Oh, before I do, let's say hi to everybody. We've got Double Pup. Obviously, we said hi to Spectre and Pigeon, and then Jacob came in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you guys. You are not too late because we just started. You're good to go, man. You're good to go. But Lizzie Borden, everybody's heard of her one way or another. You've probably heard of her through quite a bit of cultural significance. Her case is pretty much on par with O.J. Simpson's case because of how extremely influential and the landmark nature of it when it comes to court cases. It's probably one of the most publicized ones.
Rhyme.
What was that?
Jacob wants to hear the rhyme. I can.
I have it. No, I've got it. I have it.
Okay.
So that's the other reason why people have probably heard it. It goes like this. Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 51. Andrew Borden now is dead. Lizzie hit him on the head. Up in heaven he will sing. On the gallows she will swing. We all know that that didn't happen. She didn't.
I've actually seen the crime scene photos of this.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that, Spectre. Okay. Calm your tits. We'll get to that.
I am not Spectre.
I'm sorry. Nox. Calm your tits. Well, everybody calm your tits. Because you're all clinically insane. But. We will get to that later because there's an image that I want to show that will... I'm not going to show the crime scene images. That's going to get me in trouble with YouTube. Let's not do that. But there is an image that I am very excited to show everybody from that WWE ghost hunt that's really freaking funny. But before we get to that, we have to actually go over the case at hand. Before we get to the case, we want to talk about Lizzie herself. What was she like? What led up to this point? Why did she do what she did? If she did do what she did. Or did do it. We don't know. We don't know. We'll never know. The world may never know. But Lizzie, in her early life, in her life, she was born on July 19th, 1860 in Fall River, Massachusetts, to Sarah Anthony Borden and Andrew Jackson Borden. Now, before I go any further, I want to talk about Andrew. And the reason why is because there's a ton of speculation around this guy, whether or not he was an evil person, whether or not he was extremely money hungry and greedy, because he was affluent. He was. He was born into a very affluent, wealthy, influential family that was well known to the locals. He was wealthy through an 1845 business deal with his uncle Thomas Borden to manufacture and sell furniture and caskets. Through that, and through his success, he started to own a ton of property and was a property developer. Along with that, he was a director of several textile mills, the president of the Union Savings Bank, director of the Durfee Safe Deposit and Trust Company, and was allegedly very conservative with his money. One of the accusations towards him, and one of the reasons why people like to think that he died, if Lizzie actually did kill him, is because he was extremely conservative with his money and he treated his family poorly to save money. People like to speculate that he didn't have any running water or electricity or heating in the house, which was not the case when you go look back at the houses himself, because he had multiple homes that he rented out and owned. Some people said that he had a very big affair. Also, hello, Tendo. He had a huge affair with a woman and had an illegitimate son, which was not confirmed whatsoever. It was pretty much debunked later on. There was accusations of him being incestuous with Lizzie and her little sister, Emma Lenora Borden, she was born in 18, later on. I don't remember off the top of my head. I gotta look at that again, but,
I hear banjos.
do you? Ding, 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 ding.
Banjos.
There were accusations that there was an incestuous relationship or that he sexually abused her in some way, shape, or form. There is no proof to that. And there are multiple witness accounts and testimonies that is not the case. It's actually very sad the way people have painted him, because from all accounts and purposes, he adored Lizzie. He loved that girl deeply as a father, not in a sexual manner. And one of the biggest points to this is that when Lizzie was young, she gave him a ring, and he did not wear much jewelry other than his wedding ring. This particular ring he wore to his grave. No matter how hard things got, he wore this ring because it was a gift from his daughter that he loved very deeply. He cared about his family. He loved his daughters. So it is a bit offensive to him and his character and his name to say that he was any of these other things, because, well, yes, he was a bit of a penny pincher. He wasn't to the extent that people accuse him of. I wanted to make that very clear before we go forward. Hi, Brandy. Willkommen.
Hello. Sister.
Hello. Welcome. Willkommen. Lizzie was raised in a very religious home. She was brought up with the Central Congregation Church, and was very active in said church. Can you wear my hat? Are you talking
No, he wants to wear my hat.
Okay. I'm assuming you're going to say no, but I'll allow you to.
Well, a little bit of thing. When I actually go to possibly change my stills, you can totally have the hat.
Oh. You're going to change the stills now. You're not going to be the remaining top hat person. Gotcha. Remaining fedora person. Sorry.
I'm in talks right now. I might actually be changing the stills. I might not be.
We'll see.
I don't know yet.
We'll see. He's not going to be a furry anymore, guys. I'm just kidding. I don't know that or not. Anyways, let's not get too deep into that and get sidetracked. Like I said, Lizzie was very involved in the church. She taught Sunday school to immigrant children. She served as a secretary-treasurer for the Christian Endeavor Society. She was a big participant in the Women's Christian Temperance Union, and she was a member of the Ladies' Fruit and Flower Mission, which all of those are religious groups.
Yeah, the temperance movement is the anti-alcohol people.
Part of it, yeah. Particularly this one was in favor of women's rights and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's a bit different. It had nothing really to do with These are the people that actually were trying to get rights for women and get them the ability to vote and whatnot, and not just be, an object to be owned. The turning point with Lizzie and her father, I should say Lizzie, Emma, and their father, came in 1863 when their mother, Sarah Anthony Borden, passed away. It was very hard on the girls and their father, and they drifted apart when he married 3 years later, or remarried, I should say, to Abby Durfee Gray. Now, even though Andrew still very much loved his daughters did not like his new wife. There are a lot of testimonies that state Lizzie very much disliked her mother, her stepmother. She would call her Mrs. Borden instead of Mom. She was extremely she was civil with her, but it was in a way where she did not see her as a mom. She saw her more likely a gold digger that was trying to take her dad's money and didn't really care about her dad, which definitely tore them apart. Their live-in maid for quite a while, Maggie, or Bridget Sullivan, attested she rarely ate meals with her parents after they got married, meaning she wanted nada to do with them. She basically
turned. She was an adult at this time, right?
She was probably, yeah. I think she was. No, she was like 6 to 10.
Oh, okay.
She was born in 1860. Mother died in 1863. Got remarried in 66. So, okay. Yeah, they were young, but they really didn't like her. It was like a formal relationship rather than something that was familial in nature. Another big thing that people like to theorize had something to do with Lizzie turning on her father was when she was younger. She had built a roost for pigeons to live in. Pidgey's not going to like this. Close your ears. Cover your ears, Pidgey.
Pidgey, you're about ready to hear oppression of your people.
Worse than that. Andrew did not like that there were pigeons that were around his home. He didn't like that at all. And allegedly, he took a hatchet and set to destroying this roost and killing the pigeons therein. And it's because these pigeons attracted local children to come onto his property, and he didn't want that. So Lizzie was not a happy camper when that happened and was very deeply hurt by her father doing this.
Googly moogly.
Yeah. It allegedly made her so upset that she completely turned on her father. This was escalated when she was of age. And she started to kind of want more of her father's financial attention. She didn't like that, and I could kind of see why she would see her stepmother as a gold digger in a way, because when they were older, Andrew would start to gift real estate and money to his in-laws, Abby's family members, just months before the murders occurred.
I think we need to take a moment of silence because Pidgey's crying.
Oh, poor Pidge.
We need to give him some gluten-free whole wheat bread.
No, we need to give him some grapes.
Yeah.
You don't give bread to pigeons. You don't ever give bread to pigeons. That is going to make them sick. Could possibly kill them.
Or birdseed.
Yeah. But a particular incident that really started this off was when a house was specifically given to their aunt-in-law. The sisters then demanded that they be given their own home, or given the home that they'd grown up in, that they lived in until their mother, the biological mother, died, which was a rental property at the time. Andrew, being the father that he was trying to placate his kids, sold it to them for $1. Eventually, just weeks before the murders, they would end up selling it back to Andrew for $5,000.
That's actually a pretty decent.
That's a big chunk of change, but still,
Yeah.
the premise of it, this distaste was exacerbated when their uncle John Vinicum Morse was invited to stay at the Borden house to allegedly discuss business matters, which allegedly had to do with property transfers that really pissed Lizzie and Emma off. This came to a head in July of 1892 when they got into a massive argument for a reason that nobody is really totally aware of. But this fight was so bad that the sisters had to take an extended vacation to New Bedford. And when they returned, they were still so pissed off at their dad that they stayed in a local room for 4 days after their return before they went back to the home in which they were living with their dad and their stepmom. And this was also coinciding with a week prior to the murders. Another theory thrown out there that it could quite possibly be a reason why they died or not, I'm not sure. But there was an incident just days before the murders where the entire house became violently ill. This was attributed to a pot of mutton that was left on the stove for meals over several days. And Abby thought it might have been an attempt to kill Andrew by the locals, because the locals did not like him very much. For the same reasons that you would expect. He has a lot of money. He has a lot of power because he has a lot of money and influence. Get rid of him. Maybe get his stuff. And now... Hey, Nuclear Ranger, welcome. And now we get to the big old shebang this is all culminating to. The murders. On August 4th, 1982, Morris leaves in the morning for a walk at 8:48 a.m. Andrew then goes out on a walk on himself 12 minutes later at 9 a.m. Whilst he is gone, Abby went to clean the guest bedroom between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m., where she was murdered. What was speculated is that she was facing the murder at the time of the attack and was struck on the side of the face with a hatchet. There were cuts that were just above her ear. She then turned and fell face down on the floor, where she then received 17 plus strikes to the back of the head while she was on the floor. That is from somebody who does not like her.
Yeah, that's somebody that really, really wants her dead.
Yeah, somebody that really dislikes her. Really doesn't want her around. Wants her gone.
Like I said, I've seen the crime scene photos. It definitely a crime of passion.
Yeah. And not to mention that when she fell and hit her face on the floor, she received contusions on her nose and her forehead. At about 10:30 a.m., Andrew returns to the house, but for some reason the key doesn't unlock the door. Because it doesn't unlock the door, he calls Maggie to come downstairs, or gets Maggie's attention, and she comes downstairs to find the door has been jammed. While she'd found this, she attests that she had heard Lizzie laughing from the top of the stairs, even though Lizzie denies she was on the second floor at all. She denies being in the house at all. Maggie was able to bring Andrew inside, changed his boots to his slippers, and then went upstairs to the third floor to take a rest after a long day of cleaning. Fair enough.
Yeah, we all need naps sometimes.
Naps are good. Naps are fantastic. I love naps.
Honestly, I think in the workforce, mandatory nap time.
I freaking agree. Nap time is best time. But after she had gone upstairs, Andrew had laid down on the sofa on the first floor to take his own nap. And whilst he was asleep at around approximately 11 a.m., he was struck in the head 10 to 11 times with a hatchet-like weapon. He was hit so many times at such a force that one of his eyes was split clean in two, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
The wounds were still bleeding by the time law enforcement showed up, so it kind of leads to it being a very recent murder. Yeah.
I can actually really quickly just I'm not gonna like go into graphic detail. I'll just summarize the crime scene photo of Andrew Borden. His face was hamburger.
Yes. Absolutely just demolished. The guy was, oh god, the way that he was fucked up.
He didn't even look like he had a face.
No, he was fucked up, bro. It's gross. If you want to look up the crime scene photos, go right ahead. I'm not gonna show them for purposes of TOS, but yeah, pretty much 80-20 lean to fat. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
I mean, I've seen like crime scene photos from Jack the Ripper and all these other things. The only thing I can come close to is Mary Kelly when it comes to Jack the Ripper, the way she looked, but his looked a little bit more freaking personal.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. It's very indicative of a rage.
Yeah.
Somebody knew them. Somebody wanted them dead badly. Somebody was mad at them. Anyways, about 10 minutes later, Lizzie cried for which was like 11:10 a.m. That's why I say 10 minutes later. Lizzie went crying for Maggie and, quote, she would say, quote, "Maggie, come quick. Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him." Unquote. Andrew was found first. Abby was found later by Maggie and a neighbor, Miss Churchill, when they didn't trust Lizzie, which I wouldn't either, and it was suggested that they look upstairs. Lizzie basically had said that Abby got a message about a sick friend and left to go visit them. We all know that's not what happened. They found her body when they went to climb the stairs and were looking directly into the guest's bedroom. Saw her body. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I remember right, her body was in a weird position.
She was basically face down on the floor. She'd just fallen.
Yeah.
And then got just whacked all over the back of the head.
I remember the crime scene photo at first. It looked like she was face down, ass up. But I'm an idiot, so.
Yeah. Yeah. That's disgusting. Be ashamed. Anyways.
I am sorry. I was like 16 when I saw them the first time.
Okay, Knox. Okay. But obviously, the first person to be suspected of this was Lizzie. Come on. It didn't help that she gave conflicting testimony to the cops, because she initially stated that she'd heard a groan, scraping noise, distress call before entering the house. But 2 hours later, she told that she didn't hear anything. Interesting. She told him the same story about the sick friend and Abby, and gave the officers a weird attitude that was too calm for somebody who just lost their father and stepmother. Yeah, that would probably, I know people grieve and react differently, but if you are way too calm, like way too calm.
You either are sociopathic or you are completely dead when it comes to emotions.
Or you just completely disassociated. But you would still be shocked. You wouldn't be calm. You would just be, like, in shock.
I wonder if she actually had the 1,000-mile stare that some people do get when they don't show emotion, but they are feeling something, or if she didn't actually have any reaction whatsoever.
Yeah. I don't know, but I would be weirded out if she was too calm for her dad being dead. But she would continue to change her alibi multiple times throughout the cursory interview with the detectives and law enforcement. They didn't see any blood initially on her and didn't find anything during the cursory search of her room. They also allegedly they saw her to be very odd, or acting very oddly, when the murder was reported, or after the murder was reported. But But let's point something out very clearly that pissed me off when I read about this case. They let them stay in the house for an entire day before they actually went and checked the house.
Yield police were stupid.
Let's make this... Actually, no, they did... It was 2 days before they closed anything down to investigate. 2 days. Murder was on the 6th of August, or the 4th of August. They didn't actually do an investigation until the 6th. So they stayed in there a day and a half before they closed everything off and tried to check the house. Not only that, but they let other people in the house. One of Lizzie's friends, Alice Russell, was in the house directly after the murder on the 4th. Yeah, they saw her enter the cellar with Lizzie carrying a kerosene lamp and a spoil pan, with both of them leaving directly after, and then Lizzie coming back later to go downstairs. She was seen bending over a sink in the basement later on that day. They did a cursory search in the basement later on, where they found 2 hatchets, 2 axes, and a hatchet head with a broken handle. They suspected that broken hatchet was a murder weapon because the break was allegedly fresh, and the ash and dust on the head looked deliberately applied as if it were to try and make it look like the break was not as recent. But even after finding this, they left us all in the house. They left the evidence in the fucking house.
Like I said, police back then were kind of fucking stupid.
They are stupid. They were super stupid. They did, however, allegedly look into the illness that was reported several days prior, and they went and checked milk and the house and stomachs of the deceased. They were tested for poisoning to find nothing. Lizzie was suspected of doing this because she allegedly looked into purchasing hydrocyanic acid in a diluted form from a local druggist. She claims that she had inquired about this to clean her furs, meaning her, fur jackets and clothes and whatnot that may have been damaged or needed cleaning, deeper cleaning. I also like to note that this chemical is used in cyanide gas and is highly poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Little weird. On the 6th of August, like I said, they finally did a more thorough, quote-unquote, investigation. The sister's clothing was finally inspected. The hatchet head was confiscated. And the day after that, funnily enough, and not funnily enough, they didn't compensate her clothes from that time period. Because, Alice Russell, reported seeing Lizzie tearing up a dress in the kitchen on the 7th, 3 days after the murder. She says that Lizzie claimed she was, quote, planning to put it in the fire because it was covered in paint. Does anybody else see a fucking problem with that?
Yeah, for one, was there anything painted in the time period that she had claimed that she got paint on it?
Mm-hmm.
And 2, well, probably blood.
Yep. It wasn't conclusively determined that dress was actually the one that was worn on the day of the murders, but they'll never know because they didn't confiscate it. Idiots.
And Pidgey just asked if they were writing their final notes in crayon, too.
Probably. I don't even know if crayons were invented at that point.
I think crayons have been around for a while.
Did they? I don't know. I'm not looking it up. Somebody look it up. Figure out when crayons were invented.
Totally looking it up.
All right. There you go, Knox. You got a job to do. On the 8th of August. Found
it already.
Okay. What's the answer?
Crayons have been around since the 16th century.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, maybe they did make it in Crayola. They probably ate them, too. But, like I was saying, excuse me. She was brought in for an inquisitory hearing on the 8th of August, 4 days after the murder. And this pissed me off when I read it too. This is more stupid shit from the cops. She was refused the presence of her family attorney. She was interrogated aggressively by the district attorney, to the point where she was noted as being erratic. She would refuse. By that, it means she refused to answer questions that would help her. She gave contradictory testimony, and it's alleged that she was possibly under the influence of morphine during the time of the investigation because it was prescribed to her.
They actually prescribed morphine back then?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah. She wasn't officially arrested until August 11th, and the trial didn't start until June 5th, 1893, which is like a little less than a year later. I want to note the prosecution and defense because it'll be very important later. The prosecution was made up of Hosea M. Knowlton and William H. Moody. Not really that big of a deal. However, the defense is very interesting. The defense was made up of Andrew V. Jennings, Melvin O. Adams, and George D. Robinson, the former governor of Massachusetts, with the presiding judge being Justin Dewey.
I have to say this really quickly. You said William H. Moody.
Yeah.
I really want to make a Paul Bearer joke.
Lol. So the judge presiding was Justin Dewey. I'll note why these are important later. The inquisitory hearing testimony was ruled inadmissible because of her state and because with the morphine, and because she was refused a presence of attorney. Not good. The hatchet head evidence was presented horrendously by the prosecution. The prosecution fucked up every which way from Sunday in this one. They argued that it was the murder weapon and stated it was broken because it was covered in blood. However, there were two officers that gave conflicting testimony of where the hatchet head was actually found, and therefore it made this piece of evidence less credible because of it. Because they didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Honestly, that kind of reminds me, I'm going to make a slight joke, and only real legends will understand this. So basically, the defense could just argue, if the acts don't fit, you must acquit.
Pretty much. They did bring Russell onto the stand to recount her testimony about the dress being burned, which the defense never challenges, oddly enough. And then they had Lizzie on the stand. And Lizzie claims she wasn't even in the house at the time of the murder. She said she was out in the barn for 20 minutes to half an hour before the murder, which was actually kind of corroborated by multiple people. Maggie herself stated that she left Lizzie and Andrew downstairs at around 10:58 a.m., where two neighbors, Hyman Lubinsky and Charles Garner, testified to seeing Lizzie leaving the barn outside of the house at 11:03 a.m. 7 minutes later, Andrew was found dead by Maggie. The timeline does not add up. So
out of order.
It kind of is. Something's a little bit weird. She says she left 20 minutes to half an hour before the murders, which is around 10:30, 11 a.m. Around 10:30. So around the time that Abby was murdered, she was out in the barn, allegedly. She was seen coming out of the barn at 11:03 a.m. But Lizzie was also, I don't know. But Lizzie was also down. That wouldn't add up, because Lizzie says she was out in the barn, or left to go out to the barn, at like 10:30. But Maggie says she left her downstairs at 10:58 approximately. So very possibly, in that time span, after she was left downstairs, she could have gone out to the barn, grabbed something. They didn't say she had anything on her. I couldn't find anything that says whether or not she did. Went inside, killed her mom, which couldn't have been the case because Andrew was there and her mom was killed prior. Or she killed her, went outside, came back, and then killed her dad. But it doesn't. None of it makes sense. It's really weird.
You know what could have corroborated the timeline?
What?
If they actually, because even back then, you could actually find evidence and you can actually set up a timeline of things. Now, if they were smart and had been investigating then instead of waiting a couple of days, they could have actually had evidence to prove one story over the other.
But they didn't. That's why nothing adds up.
Yeah.
Although I'm more inclined to believe a theory over there. We'll discuss theories after we're done with the trial and everything.
Oh, I have a theory I like.
We'll talk about it when we get to theories. I'll say specifically when the theories are. Go over them. We can talk about that in a second. I want to stay in the chronological order. I don't want to jump around too much. Even the skulls of the dead were brought in by the prosecution as evidence. And allegedly, Lizzie was so upset by this that she fainted in the courtroom.
Yeah. I mean, it is a skull. But the funny thing is, the way that they would have to have done that is they would have had to boil the frickin' head just to get to the skull.
Yep. Gross.
And, yeah.
Super gross. Yes, I mean,
apparently
stepmom,
you activated
and
somebody's Siri.
Yeah, I was gonna respond to that. Yes, stepmom, and sorry I activated your Siri. I don't know. But yeah, she lost it when she saw the stuff, the skulls, which I probably might have, but she could have been acting. I don't know. Can't tell you. I wasn't there. I wasn't even. My dad wasn't even a twinkle in my grandparents' eye. My grandparents weren't even a twinkle in my great grandparents' eye at that point. But
you young whippersnapper, you.
Yeah, you're pretty young in comparison to them too.
Yeah, I know.
The testimony for hydrogen cyanide purchasing, or looking into the purchase of hydrogen cyanide, was ruled ineligible for the court, or not good enough for being put into the court because it was too remote in time to have any connection. Cool. Whatever. And then on June 20th, which is 15 days later, the jury was sent back to deliberate, and it took them about an hour to acquit Lizzie Borden of all charges. Not surprised, because from what I'm hearing about the prosecution, that their case was absolutely garbage.
Well, not only was their case absolutely garbage, the frickin' investigation itself was muddled. Everything pointed to where you wouldn't get a conviction, no matter if frickin' Lizzie Borden said, well, I done did it.
Yep.
You'd have to actually have the proof to do it, to actually prove that she did it.
Yep. And let's get a little bit deeper into the criticisms of the case, which is going to go over, it's basically going to be breaking down everything that I have a problem with, and everybody else had a problem with the case. For the police's standpoint, obviously they didn't take any evidence until 2 days after the murders. 2 days after the murders. Bad. Didn't do a thorough enough investigation for 2 days. So anything could have been destroyed. Anything could have been moved. People were coming in and out of that home directly after the murder, which is not good at all. There's just a failure on all counts when it comes to that. Now, criticisms of the prosecution. They effed up their testimony, period. And they didn't have anything to support the case against Lizzie that would completely stand out as definitive. She did this. Not only that, but the testimony she gave from the interview prior to her arrest was so botched and her rights were completely infringed upon to the point where it couldn't be used in court.
That surprisingly happens a lot.
It's true. Snoopy, yes, back in the 1800s, they didn't have the technology we did, but there are still practices that they could have used to better support the case against Lizzie if she was the one that actually killed her parents. They did a terrible job in investigation standpoint.
Okay, I can make a good observation right now. The Villisca Havoc's murder houses happened in not that long after this. It was like in the early 1900s. They actually closed off the whole entire freaking property just to investigate what happened in that house.
Yep.
They were doing that back then. If they closed off the whole entire property and listened to testimony, they could have gone to each area and looked for evidence for anything that could have corroborated either story. Doesn't have to do with DNA or
nope,
genetics or anything like that. It's just simple police work.
Yep, and it was just plain laziness in this case. There could have been so many things that were done properly that could have supported their case in general that they didn't do. Wait, did the words fair situation happen before this? I don't...
H.H. Holmes?
World's fair situation? I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head. Completely different case. I don't have that in my brain palace anymore. I was a long time ago when I covered that. The
parallel monkeys we're looking at.
No. The last thing that I want to point out, and the reason why I was saying note who was involved in the defense and the judge themselves. The judge was appointed by Robinson, the former governor, prior to this case. Before he left office, he put him on as a judge. He appointed him. Prior to jury deliberation, there was a summary of the case given by the judge that allegedly was very favorable towards the defense. So the judge themselves not only had a personal relationship with one of the defense attorneys, there was favoritism shown allegedly by testimony from people in the courthouse at the time. So not only did the police fuck it up, not only did the prosecution fuck it up, but allegedly the judge fucked it up. Or could have fucked it up. Because of favoritism towards one of the defense attorneys.
Yeah, people call cover up for cases with less freaking stuff than this.
Yep. Well, no, I think there was still something of an autopsy because they did test I said earlier, they did test the stomach contents of the victims for poisoning. So there is a form of autopsy. It's just not to the same extent as it is today.
Yeah, I know when autopsies started. They started sometime in just right after the Civil War in this country, but they've been going on since the early Victorian era in the UK.
Yeah, so saying there's no such thing as an autopsy is not correct. After this, Lizzie pretty much had a very not so good life. The Borden sisters moved to a different home in a more affluent neighborhood after this case was closed out. All property was given to the sisters, but money was paid to settle claims with Abby's family, with their in-laws' family or step family. They were completely ostracized by the Fall River Society, the area in which they lived. And eventually, Lizzie would be accused of shoplifting in Providence, Rhode Island in 1897. Apparently in 1905, after a massive argument at a house party between Emma and Lizzie, Emma completely disowned her sister and moved out. Eventually, Emma would pass away, or not too long from that, she would pass away, and then Lizzie would become extremely ill after having her gallbladder removed. Yikes. Eventually, she would die of pneumonia on the 1st of June in 1927, and she'd be buried in Oak Grove Cemetery. That is the life of Lizzie and the case that surrounds her. Now, what are the theories on what happened? Well, obviously, Lizzie is still universally seen as the prime suspect. I'm inclined to agree she's the prime suspect. People allege that she had a dissociative disorder and killed her parents in retaliation for a multitude of things. Like I said, it was believed that Andrew was sexually and physically abusive to her and her sister, which is not corroborated by anybody. I don't agree with that. I think it was more or less that she killed them because of money problems, and she felt like Abby's family was being favored more than her and her sister, and she didn't like that. She also didn't like how she just didn't like Abby. Didn't like her in general. But I think the funniest theory regarding why Lizzie killed her family that day has to do with Maggie herself. Some people like
Is
to
this the
think...
one I think it is?
Some people like to think that, Abby caught Maggie and Lizzie having lesbian relations.
Yep,
and
that's actually the one that I love.
She flew into a rage and killed Abby because she got caught. And because Andrew got mad because he found... she told him about it, she killed him too. However, Maggie says that this is not the case. There's no testimony that says that there is any sort of lesbian relationship. And after this whole thing, she would go on to get married to a man, have a family, and on her deathbed, she would then confess that she lied on the stand to protect Lizzie, which is why people think she and Lizzie were getting it on, scissor me Xerxes.
Scissor me, daddy. Anyways, but no, the reason why I love this one is because, well, the only actual thing that people point out that makes this plausible in their opinion is the fact that Lizzie never married, if I remember right.
She didn't.
And my first thought is, so what?
People didn't like her because of this whole thing.
Yeah.
You think anybody's going to want to marry her when they think that she killed her dad and stepmom? Like,
why am I getting bonked?
Because you the scissor me thing.
Oh, come on. We've done that before.
Yeah, that's nothing new for us.
Yeah, that's not a bonkable offense.
Yeah, but there are 3 other people that allegedly were theorized to have murdered Andrew and Abby Borden. One being the uncle, John Morse. Hey, thank you for the $4.99 Helm House 3. Good evening. Thank you very, very much for the donation. 07's in the chat for Helm House 3.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate it greatly. The first is the uncle that was in the house, John Morse. He was there the night before the murders, and he was suspected because he, quote, had a, quote, absurdly perfect and over-detailed alibi for the death of Abby Borden. Quote, unquote. So because he gave a detailed alibi for the murders, he's suspected of being the one that killed him.
Well, they do say that you can tell when somebody's lying when they go into way too much detail.
Yeah, but it could be that, Or it could be they very much know what it's recent. It would still be fresh in the mind. So if they're asking you questions and you're able to give good answers to those questions, I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's really dumb.
Yeah,
Um,
to me it's more like maybe he's just a chatty person.
yeah, you could just be a chatty Cathy. We don't know. But the third person suspected is William Borden, quote unquote. Not really his name. Um, but he was suspected of being Andrew's illegitimate son, which was very much disproven by an author, Leonard Rebello, after an extensive bit of research into this. It's thought that he had had an affair with some woman, and a child was born out of it, William. And William allegedly killed them because he tried to extort Andrew for money and it didn't work, so he had to kill him. It doesn't make any sense. There's nothing to corroborate it, and the only reason this came up is because of another author named Arnold Brown posing this alleged thing. But I give very little credence to it, purely because a lot of people spoke so badly about Andrew because of him being a little more stringent with his money and being extremely wealthy. People didn't like him in general, to the point where Abby thought that the family was poisoned because people didn't like Andrew.
Yeah, not only that, but it kind of seems more like an armchair detective theory.
Yeah, it really is. Here's an even bigger one for you. And this is like the dumbest fucking one I've ever heard.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about.
The last person that was suspected of killing Andrew and Abby Borden is Emma Borden, the little sister of Lizzie.
Dun.
This was posed by a writer named Frank Spearing in 1984. His 1984 book about Lizzie. She was suspected of visiting the residence and left without being noticed. But if you think about it, there's no way that could have happened because she had a solid alibi and she was, at the time of the murder, 15 fucking miles away in Fairhaven during the time of the murders. So if dude says that she can somehow, without anybody ever seeing it, and multiple people saying that she was where she was at the time of the murders, she somehow snuck away, traveled 15 miles to her house, nobody saw her, and then came back without anybody noticing.
Yeah, it's pretty much that one I do remember because I read the book Lizzie that the dude actually wrote.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I'm like, this just kind of comes off as this person didn't do any fucking research whatsoever. Yeah. It's very insulting.
It's kind of like that Ultimate Evil thing.
I just know when I read it, he just completely just ignores her alibi. And let's face it, unless she has a fucking sling ring, she is not getting back to her house in time to be seen in two different places.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Also, Spectre's dad, Helmhouse, our generous donor, worked for the Superior Court auditing case files and death row case files. And he's loving this coverage. Awesome. Glad I could be of assistance and be entertaining.
Awesome.
But
wait till next month when I'm covering Andrew Cunanan.
Oh, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. But let's get to the thing that I was alluding to earlier. Now.
And
what?
Oh, I just coughed. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I tried to turn my head and pause or mute my freaking mic at the same time, and
didn't work.
You just heard it.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say something. I was like, all good. All good. Happens to the best of us. But I wanted to cover this, and I was so interested in covering this because of the WWE ghost hunting thing with Scarlett and Shotzi. Now, when they were doing this, they were in, I think, the basement of the house. when they used basically a VR headset that has some kind of program on it, that shows you images from the entities in the room. There were two in particular that were really fascinating to me, and it's why I wanted to look into the case. The first, is the first thing they saw. They put the VR headset on. I don't remember what it's called. And wait, what? I'm sad the show is over now. What show?
I think he's talking about the show that the WWE did.
Oh, yeah. That was fun. I want them to do that more, because that was just so much fun to see the wrestlers in there. But anyways, they put a VR headset on. And they were talking to the spirits, and the very first image that popped up was this. Let me share the screen with Knox so he can see it.
Yes, I am blind right now.
All right. This is the first image that showed up.
Hang on a second, I gotta... Okay, there we go. Oh!
That showed up on the VR headset. That was the first one that showed up. Notice how odd this is. Doesn't that look like a Victorian dress in that middle figure?
Yeah, but I also keep thinking I would buy that painting for $1,000.
That's really fucking cool. Notice like the blood everywhere. It's pretty nuts. This was shown. This was the first thing that they saw. But what really interested me was, remember how I said that Lizzie Borden's family owned a lot of property, and she owned a lot of property after Andrew died?
Yeah.
So they asked the question of where did Lizzie, if Lizzie was the one that killed them, where was the weapon hidden? And this is what popped up on there.
Okay.
That's the A.J. Borden building.
Is that an apartment building or a factory?
It's a building. I don't know what it is, but it is the A.J. Borden building is one of the buildings that Andrew Borden owned. And then Lizzie owned after he died. This came on the screen. The part of the left is what came on the screen. The one on the right is the actual building. Notice how fucking similar that is.
It's disturbing.
And that left image popped up in the VR headset when they asked where the weapon was hidden.
I'm actually glad that a building popped up and not like a head with a freaking cleaver stuck in it.
Right? So if you think about it, if the ghosts are actually showing us something that's legitimate, none of the things that they found in the basement were the murder weapon. Per these ghosts, allegedly, we don't know if this. I'm skeptical. If that's what it is, if it's legitimate, I don't think it is, but if it was, allegedly, the murder weapon was buried under the building that was owned by Lizzie. That's an interesting little thought, isn't it? Very interesting little thought.
I'm still trying to figure out if that's an apartment building or if that's a...
Why does it matter?
Because I am a nerd.
Look, literally the name of the building is right there. You could Google it.
Well, fine, I will.
If it bothers you that much. It is an interesting tidbit. And yes, there are different roofing styles, but from what I understand, that building was renovated at some point. But it does look eerily similar, doesn't it?
It's a commercial building.
There you go.
And it's on the historical registry.
Isn't that
Okay, now
fun?
my brain can. I have ADHD. When a thought goes in my head, I can't let it go until I figure it out.
Just Google it, bro.
I
Like,
did.
I know, but it took me telling you to Google it for you to actually Google it. Could have solved the problem real fast. I love you, bro, but your ADHD brain makes you not think.
That's why I drink a lot of caffeine, because caffeine actually helps steady you when it comes to ADHD. It doesn't turn you into a freak who can't focus. It actually helps you focus.
That's interesting because I know some people who would say otherwise. Anyways, that is everything I have that comes to the Lizzie Borden case. Is there any other factoids that I missed that you want to drop, Knox? I think I pretty much covered everything.
You pretty much covered everything. The only thing that I can add to it is a lot of people who are on the side that Lizzie Borden didn't do it point to the fact she fainted in the courtroom.
Yeah, bullshit.
Because you need to, yeah, you can act that. Because let's face it, anybody who's actually studied the Salem witch trials can see what happens when people can act. But that's the only one that I could think of. Is there's people that are hardliners who will think, oh, Lizzie couldn't have done it. Look at how she acted in court. She fainted.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. So, what does everybody think? Do they think Lizzie did it? Do they think somebody else did it? What is your takeaway from this? Because I think Lizzie did it. There's too much that points towards it that doesn't point otherwise.
I think that Lizzie had the motive and opportunity to do it.
I agree.
Hatred of her stepmother for years and feeling that her financial security in the future
Was in
being
jeopardy.
slipped away probably caused her to do it. It was probably monetary.
Oh, I think it was a rage. It was selfishness. It was a monetary thing. It was feeling like they were going to be lesser because all of their stuff was going towards Abby's family.
I'm going to point out something that we mentioned earlier. And this is the reason why I think that Lizzie had the motive and opportunity. And it actually pretty much summarizes my case on this. You have to care about somebody, quote unquote, to inflict the damage to Andrew Borden's head that he suffered.
And Abby's head. Abby took more damage than him, arguably.
Yeah. You have to have some sort of feeling towards that person. So maybe a brother, yeah, maybe. But more than likely is somebody that hates them with a passion. And then hates Andrew Borden, even if they don't feel like they hate Andrew Borden.
Yep. There's something too personal there.
Yeah, and if you actually look at pictures of her, she's always got these freaking eyes that just look soulless.
Yep, glazed over. Like the thumbnail. She's in the thumbnail, y'all. But that's everything I have. You had something coming out next weekend, right?
I have two things. First is the video, The Innocence Project, The Corrupt Cop. Talking about a cop who planted drugs in innocent people's cars.
Yeah, no bueno.
And then on Sunday is going to be Archive Live number 2, Turkey Stuffing, where I'm going to mostly talk about Matty Russo and a bunch of other stupid fucking criminals.
Yeah.
So.
That'll be fun. And to that, if you notice, he's going to be streaming on Sunday. I'm not going to be streaming at all next Sunday. I might do something. I'm probably going to do something during the week to close up the Mandela catalog streams. I have that one 40-minute video that we need to go through and react to. So I'll probably do that before the month is out. But that's all I really have. Keep an eye on the Caffeine Diner archive stuff. We're finally done with the introductory arc, and we're into the the good stuff with the actual cryptids. I'm very excited for the first cryptid case to come out next week, and keep an eye out for that. It's so much fun. I really hope you guys enjoy it. But until then, we will see you next time. Sweet nightmares.
Bite me one time. Bite me twice. Oh, ah, that's rather nice. Frankenstein, freaks and grudge. Scream out loud, you're out of luck. Crime so beastly, can't get enough. Ooh, it's all psychotic love. I start to turn when all the streets are moving. I suck 'em dry and rip off all the skin bits. 'Cause freaky horror films, I'll always be a fan. From Nosferatu right up to Train to Busan. And what a beautiful werewolf queen we have inside it. To slice a path of hell with a foul death beside it. Spooky sounds, blood and brains, hunted down by the insane. Crime so beastly, can't get enough. Ooh, it's all psychotic love.